Black, black, ice, ice, T, T, V, V. Black, black, ice, ice, T, T, V, V. What came first, Bravo or love? Jesus love.
They have shown us a path of joy. They never left the drum beat. They never left the smiles. They never left the food and the colors of Africa. Because Africa was within. They birthed from wherever they were. They gave birth to a new Africa. And it's now open.
Nigeria.
Chiamba and Bakwa Hindu people of the Bakwa Mpungu kingdom of Congo. So I'm here to just honor you, the diaspora. And we came to do a very special ceremony to honor our ancestors and to show that all the Africans of the world are really one people. And then Africa has basically created herself again in so many ways, in so many different countries, and so many different lands all over the world. And we have to dance all over the world. And we have to continue with the legacy of our ancestors. Ancestors went through a very difficult time when they were taken from Africa, kidnapped in such a brutal way and such a crude situation, and they survived the journey. They brought them here, actually, through these docks to sell them as slaves, and so they were taken captives and they were kidnapped, and then also they were put to work in a forced labor camp. So we suffered, and it was not just one generation; it was a multitude of generations. And so, despite this difficulty, our ancestors really chose the voice of life. They chose the light because they had God in their heart, and they carried on with that light and passed it on. And it's important that we recognize that this light is still shining today within us, and then we have a task that has been given us by the Creator, so we can continue to make this world a better place. Africa has a lot of solution. Africa has a lot of wisdom. Africa has a lot of knowledge in the ancestral ways, but we have been cut off, and we have learned to disrespect ourselves by disrespecting our own history and disrespecting the legacy of our cultures that our ancestors left. And I'm really encouraging all the people to really reconcile with their identity proper, and we can also create a new identity just like our ancestors did in all the countries of the diaspora. Because as I say, in Jamaica, there is not just a Yoruba, there is a Yoruba, there is a Ga, there is a Benin, there is a Diambi, there is a Congo, there is an Angola, there is a Senegal. There is everybody in one person. So the diaspora is really the example of a united Africa. And I really call on you, the diaspora, because we have resources, we have access to information, to really start breaking all the walls between us and to stop seeing the differences between us, because in each one of you, there is everyone. there is every country of Africa. So start recognizing all the things that unite us. And it's that spirit that really wants to bring about a change for people to thrive and prosper, and for us to really lift ourselves up. And it's not just for the African people. It's really a new energy we can bring into this world by showing the path that we are very resilient people. We are strong and we are very resourceful people. And if we were able to survive the worst condition, we can definitely make a difference if we have the right resources, but especially the right mindset and the heart at the right place. So I'm here really to say, I pay you homage. I pay homage to all our ancestors, no matter where they are, where they came from, all the lineage that we come from. And I really want to recognize that strength and beauty in us that we can see today. And today, when I see every one of you, I see them and I see myself in them. And I say, we're going to do this. So thank you very much for welcoming me here. Thank you very much for all the love and support and just the unity I see and the welcome I see. I will come again and again and again, and then you'll get tired of me.
Message for the children.
A message for the children. Children, you are the most valuable resources we have. You are the angel of the future. You are our babies, and with your strength and your pure heart, we are going to do a lot of work. We are the ones who are going to change the energy on this planet. And you, the children, I have a big responsibility. That's why I will come back again, and I will give you your crown as prince and princesses of Africa. So when you wear a crown, it's not about something pretty that, just show that you are a prince or princess. When you have a crown on, it's just saying that you accept the responsibility you have towards yourself to be a good person in this world, toward your loved ones, your family, your parents, to be obedient and a kind person, and also to be good to the community in which you live and to this world. So always try to work to be the best citizen of the world, because we need you. We need your intelligence. We need your creativity. We need your smile. We need your love. And you are much better than us. You are the upgrade of our generation. So keep on doing what you do. Learn about your history. Be proud of being African, and ask your elders, ask your grandparents how is Africa if you don't know, or just read books. I have a friend of mine, Dominique here, Mwankumi, who writes a book, a children's book, and for Africa, to explain to them about Africa. If you want to say a little something about your books.
But I'm surprised. But my job is to writing children's books, to tell our children how to write their own story, how to draw it. And you become what you see, what you hear, what you eat, and I try just to share the positive things with the children. Something they can in the future they can become like a writer, anything.
So this is a man that I want you to really connect with for our children. He writes absolutely amazing books, and he will be writing a series of books on Queen Diambi. So we know it's coming. He's preparing my book. It's like little book for children on Queen Diambi, and my dolls are coming also. Next year I will have little Queen Diambi dolls, because a lot of little girls, they want the Queen Diambi doll, and the parents are calling and asking me. So I said, okay, we're going to make a Queen Diambi doll. We have to get our elders, our beautiful people. We have to start showing our children who they really are and what they can look like. And since they are an upgrade, they can make it better. So I'm looking for the little Queen Diambi who is going to be better than me, because that's my hope. That's what I pray for every day, for God, for our children to really be better than what we are. And we're going to give them our best, but we need them to also be their best. Thank you, everyone.
So
One more question.
One more word to say to the African diaspora.
Love you. 3 words.
3 words.
Greetings, family. Please share this link. Able to get it around as much as possible as we address Her Majesty, who's going to be coming in very soon. So please bear with us while she comes through. I will play another video while we are waiting. Thank you very much.
right?
Mhm.
The reason we want to cultivate our dreams in sports and entertainment because it allows us to express ourselves, express our spirituality in a sense. But it leaves us void of the business aspect and what it actually means to gain power. So I always tell people, for one, you have to learn how to not just have your dream, but how to work it out to bring it about.
Okay.
So not only do we talk about that essence of consciousness, the immaterial, but we also teach you the steps to gain the material power.
It's not in there.
All the time you can have all these spiritual rituals, but with no material balance. Today is October 7th. It's Elijah Muhammad's birthday. That's why I wear my crown. You know, say and he had a quote talking about how he was a farmer in Georgia, and when he was plowing the mules, nobody thought that he'd be a scientist to run the world or to teach the world. But he said, "See, with everything, time comes." And we can teach our people who may not know, but we have to be able to communicate between the people in this world and not be affected by our differences of ideologies, philosophies, politics, states, whatever it may be, because everybody has their own agenda in their mind. Sometimes it only goes so far as the vision. You're going to want to bring people together, but they just looking at what they don't get out.
You're in.
Short sight. And our people have a mental myopia.
All right.
They can't have a vision.
Okay,
yeah.
Environment and their survival. And I know what it's about. I'm not sure what the population is out here. Looking up what the population of it is. I'm like 22.5. And
greetings, family. As we are in today, and it's a special occasion, as we have a very honorable person that is going to share with us loads of things, because we have loads to talk about. We've dearly missed her, and you know, being through all our travels, everything has been on a standstill, but you know what? We still move on and we still fight to where we need to be. So I'm going to introduce you to the most beautiful woman on the planet. And able to have our discussion and our dialogue on where we're going to be going and what we're going to be doing. So before I do so, I want our dearly queen to introduce herself to the public.
Hello, everyone. This is Queen Diambi Kabatuswila Queen of the Bakwaluntu people of Kasai in the Democratic Republic of Congo, as well as Queen Mother of the African descendants of Brazil, and just friends of many, I hope, and daughter and mother of two.
Okay, so Queen, how have you been? Because we haven't seen you in such a long time.
Yes. Sometimes it's good to just have a little bit of retreat. When we can do it voluntarily is better. But in this case, we have been confined because of the current corona crisis that everybody is now aware of all over the world. So I've been confined just like everybody else, you know, doing different things and taking some time to reflect on my own self and of the mission that we have to do and on this situation that's going on. And of course, it's bringing about a lot of different things, different concerns, especially for the community. But before I start, you know how I like to start things. We have to give honor where honor is due. So I don't know if everybody understands that I'm going to do a little bit of a libation, because libation is a very ancient African tradition that is basically a way to bring the community together by referring to our ancestors and referring to the divine principle, because the oldest ancestor is the supreme being that, is the life source, of everything. So this is where we all come from. So when we say we're going to pour libation to ancestors, they can be our bloodline relatives, and they can also be all the people that have inspired us to grow and become who we are, who have walked the path of life just like us, before and have, enabled us to be who we are today. And who we are in terms of physical, our family, and also our way of thinking and our heart. And so we give reverence to these ancestors by pouring libation. And again, I remember that our most ancient ancestor is the divine source herself. Okay, so I'm gonna just take a bottle. I have a bottle of water. I don't want to do any publicity, and I have a little glass. A glass. Anybody can do it home as well. And I advise to do this practice every time we're going to be in a place where we want to, do meditation or prayer, or just be in a silent moment. Or you can also do it when you go walk in nature. Like now, we can still go walk around. You can bring a little bottle of water or libation. Don't waste a lot of water, because some people in this world still dying of thirst, as we speak. So it's just a symbol to say, we are pouring a little bit of water. So we are, by doing this, I bring this community together. Everybody that's watching or will be watching later, we bring the community together by pouring libation for all the ancestors of the people present and all the people who are, who we think about. I bring, pour libation to thank, everything that has come past that made us who we are today. I pour libation to give gratitude to all the ones who have fought for liberty and freedom for our lives. I will not give names, but you can think about different names of the people that have inspired you, elders that have passed and have inspired you, and for whom you would like to gain some knowledge and power. I pour libation for the divine source that is the ancestors of all life, the ancestor of all life on this planet and beyond. And I pour libation so that all this energy, this beautiful energy of love, peace, and compassion can accompany us in this moment, so that we can speak our truth, and we can also speak the truth that needs to be heard. And we can all come from the place of love and compassion and respect and kindness, so that we can gain strength during this very difficult moment that we are going through for the past couple of thousands of years. Ashe, thank you. So this is a little ceremony that we do. I hope you can understand why it's important, because this helps with the energy of water as well, helps bring us to focus, because I hope that we're going to tackle important subjects today, and that anything can be also of nutrients, because in water there's nutrients as well, so that everything can bring something refreshing. And the reason why we use water is that water has symbolic to it as well. It's not only the source of life itself. Without water, we don't have life. We are made of mostly water. Everything around us is made mostly of water, even if we don't see it. The air has water in it. And now we're talking a lot about those famous droplets. So every word we say carries water with it. So water is everywhere. We have really a planet of water. Our planet is a bubble of water. Water also symbolizes that we can clean things, it purifies. So whatever has been dirtied or whatever has been, impure, we can purify it using water. So whatever intention that we have, may everything that we do be, cleansed and purified. And if we have had, difficult thing that we carry with us, difficult energies that are holding us down, we can purify them by using water. And also water, then the third very important symbol of water is that water is very flexible and malleable, and also strong, meaning that water, nothing resists to water. So water can go through different paths and find its way. So whoever is in very difficult situation, if you refer to the symbolism of water and you kind of like attach your vibe, your energetic vibe to water, you can see that in any circumstances, water will always find a way, and very, very little can resist to water. Actually, nothing can resist to water. If the seas rise and you have a tsunami, that's it. It can break any obstacles. So that's why we use water. We also use light. You may not see it, but I have it here. I have a candle, and the light it symbolizes the light, you know, so we can cast light into darkness when we are confused, when we are worried, when, you know, we don't know where we're going. So light can, you know, bring awareness in different areas of our consciousness. So it's a symbol. Yeah. And of course, you can use light to get into a room that is dark, but it's also symbolized in a spiritual sense that here we are in difficult place. Let's find the light. Let's find the light at the end of the tunnel. So that's why we have light when we usually speak about very serious matter. And another thing that I really love to do is I just like to sometimes spray a little bit of perfume, you know, any perfume that you like. So you spread a little perfume, and that is just bringing scent, enlightening your scent, and then making it, you know, making the whole atmosphere pleasant. So if you don't have perfume, you can have incense, you know, you can, so it creates kind of like an atmosphere of where you want to do some introspection, and when you want to be poised to bring forth something that is good. So that's for the ceremony.
Thank you, Queen. Thank you for blessing the platform. Please share, like, and subscribe. Tell everyone that the Queen is live. And before we start to go into the dialogue, I'm just going to allow some of the people on the panel at the moment to able to greet you, and before we go into the dialogue. So, as our sister Majestic, would you like to say something? Can we hear you, Majestic? Hold on. Can you hear? We can't hear you. We'll come back. We'll come back to you. Professor Konsu. Professor Konsu.
Greetings.
Explain who you are and give your presence to the Queen.
Yes, blessings to the Queen of the Diaspora, Queen Diambi of Congo. Good to see you again.
Thank you, family. Thank you.
Yes. So my name is Andre Sankofa, Professor Konsu, author of Sacred Man, director of Manhood Academy for Boys in London.
Okay. Gemma, are you there? Okay. What we will do is we will go into our dialogue, and then we will able to let the people hear what our Queen has to say. Because, you know, we were supposed to be in Angola, but, you know, it's been pushed back. But I just want us to kind of talk on the dialogue of our journey throughout the last year, from the times of Brazil, because we've got people from Brazil that are listening in, and they say they're going to pay attention, but, you know, I can't speak Portuguese. But the experiences of that journey and why it was something that we were meant to do. So, Queen, in us going to Brazil, what do you feel that you've achieved by going to Brazil?
It wouldn't be fair if I was just to talk about Brazil without putting it in context.
Yeah.
Of my reign. I was crowned almost 4 years ago now. In August, it will be 4 years. And, you know, living in the United States, being, you know, having a life, you know, like a lot of most people, I was called to go to the Congo, and I went back home, and then I received, you know, the crown of the Bakwantu people. And at first, I really didn't know what to do. I was like, you know, this is coming out of nowhere. I was not expecting anything like that. What am I to do now? Am I to leave my life in the United States and just come back home and just stay in my territory, that is Dimbelenge in Kasai, or what am I going to do? So I was very confused because it just came out of nowhere. Like a lot of crowning usually happen in Africa. It's kind of like a surprise. They vet you without you knowing. And then once the crown sits on your head, it's over. You are it. So, which is an honor. Of of course, but at first I really didn't know how I was going to work on this. However, they told, just take some time, regroup and find, you don't have to stay here for now. You still, I still have time to eventually go and sit there and just stay in Congo. In the time being, I have to do something that is my passion, something that my calling. What is my calling? And I grew up in Congo, lived in Europe, lived in the United States, got to have the experience of being a Black woman in Africa, in Europe, and in America. I learned a lot about myself by being outside of Africa. And I realized, that I made connections with people from the African diaspora in the world, like in Europe and in America. And I learned so much about Africa because I was in contact with a lot of people. I learned about the different experiences that we've had that I didn't know when I lived in Africa. In Africa, I grew up there, I went to school there. They didn't really talk about slavery at all. They talked about mainly the colonization, what the European had come and they colonized, and then they brought us a lot of good stuff, and that was it. They made us move from being savage to being like almost human, and and then that's it. So we never really thought about how Africans were all over the world, because when I was young, we didn't even mention that. It was maybe a couple of lines mentioned here and there. I'm not going to say I never heard of it, because we even have some expressions about, being enslaved by a famous slave trader. I will precise all those terms later. That was called tipo tipo. And in Congo was taking people and selling them in the eastern coast. And so that was basically like the only mention I had about, the whole phenomenon of slavery. But then when I came to the United States, it really struck me that the African people here, they call themselves African American, were really my brothers and my sisters. They were Africans and they came from Africa just like me. And of course they look like me, and of course they are so different. They had same mannerisms. Of course, we liked music, we liked the dancing, we had same kind of interest. And something that brought us together was basically their own quest for Africa. And as I had left Africa, and I was missing home because I was in Europe. My father had to leave Africa because of political reasons. So we had to go to Europe and stay in Europe for many, many years. So I was missing home. And when I got to America, I was missing home even more. But then I realized when my African American friends were asking me about Congo and Africa, I really didn't know that much. I mean, I knew about my experience as living in Congo. I knew about my life there and how was life in Kinshasa, because I'm a city girl, but I didn't know anything else. I didn't know about the history, really. I didn't know about what happened. And then I was confronted with their experience of being descendants of people coming from Africa in such extreme traumatic circumstances. And now that life of being enslaved in a foreign land of their ancestors. So I started to get more interested because I wanted to bring them something, kind of like almost like a bridge between my experience as being an African and their experience as being an African, and that was our history. And so I started to learn and study our history, and I had an amazing master, who's Professor James Small, who came to the university where I was in New York and gave a beautiful lecture about Africa and prehistoric Africa with the kingdoms of the ancient Africans, like Kemet, Kemeta, or Kama, like we call it in Congo, Kemet. That's called in the world, and then all the different kingdoms that were there, and the African experience. And that just blew my mind and opened my eyes to wanting to know more, and then realizing how close we were to each other. And then we went through different experiences, but at the end of the day, we were Africans to the core, no matter where we were from. And that was quite exciting. But still, we still had to do some kind of reconciliation, because they still look at me like being different and me looking at them as being different. So many people didn't recognize themselves as being African, as I didn't recognize myself necessarily as being African American. So when after life and children and studies and all that, when I was crowned, really something that was close to my heart was that I realized that I have missed Africa so much when I lived in the United States for so many years. And even during that time, I was studying African culture, African history. I went into the Yoruba tradition because that was the one that was available here for me to study. And it was beautiful. I was learning about the African worldview and how we were conceiving of, how life came about, the complexity and the intricacies of existence, and how we addressed, all these, these different areas of our lives, and how we communicated with the all, and how we were, we entered into spaces, energetic spaces of being connected to the source, and all kinds of things. That was amazing. And then later on, I was then called to go to Congo and became a crown. So when they asked me what was my passion really, and I was like, it's really about building a bridge, because I think that Africa needs to be mended or healed, and Africa needs to be healed wherever she is. So she is in Africa, definitely the continent. There's so much to be done there for healing, but there's also a lot to do in the diaspora. And I believe that because I've had this very big experience of traveling and learning about different cultures, and I'm myself from different cultures, I think that would have been a good position for me to do, and to really go and extend a hand and say, hey guys, I'm Queen Diambi and Africa needs you. And then they also say we need Africa as well, because even to be an African descendant anywhere in the world, you have to reconcile with that part of that very important foundation of your identity. So I find that everywhere I went, it was important for me to go towards the ones who could not make it to Africa, or try to make it to Africa by learning about it, by adopting the spiritual systems of different African cultures, languages, even dress, the way they dress, and by going towards them and saying, I am also another part of you. I'm also another part of your African experience. We have to bring it together so we consolidate it. So this is how the contest in which I have been traveling the world, and I started with the United States at first. And before that, I went to first Africa, and I went to different countries and met with different kings and told them about what I wanted to do and asked them for their support. And there was a very big king, the Oni of Ile-Ife, Nigeria, who has really supported me at the very beginning for that mission. And once I got thumbs up, and a lot of them thought, that's an amazing thing. And a couple of them have been doing the same thing. So I went and joined the mission of working on reconciliation of our identity by getting to meet each other, by getting to do healing work together, by embracing each other, and by learning about our different experiences, seeing the similarities so we can click on the similarities, and appreciating the differences and feel more wealthier when we embrace the differences that our different experiences have brought us about. So that's when that's in that context that Brazil came about. And so Brazil was about going to meet the different communities in Brazil. So I had gone the year before in 2018, 17, I went to Brazil, and I met a couple of the communities that we went to again, and a couple of the leaders. And I had told them, I said, I know that there's a longing for Africa. Many people say, oh, we don't know where we are from. We know we are from Africa, but what tribe, what area? And there's a longing for this. And what I told them, I said, yeah, I totally understand, because even when I was out of Africa, I was longing for Africa as well. But one thing that many people didn't think about is that what I guess I said, but you made Africa out of every single land that you came to. So I started to call Brazil, Africa, USA, Africa, Jamaica, Africa, Barbados, Africa, UK, so I basically say Africa was wherever we were, and we made of those lands, we made them Africans. So I think this is when they got the idea. They're like, okay, so if this is Africa too, then we can have our own crown and our own throne of an African queen or king. And when I went to Brazil last year, they sat me on the throne, and they decided to crown me queen of the African descendants of the Bantu people of Brazil. And they did the crowning ceremony in different places. Normally they needed only one, but every place I went to, they wanted to do their own. So to kind of confirm that they did acknowledge that, I wear the crown to represent, them as well in this quest for reconciliation.
Okay. Yeah, so now we've got to Brazil. I just want us to move straight to the Americas and New Orleans, and the experiences that we had in New Orleans, especially in that they made a special day, the 25th of April, in your name, which is coming very soon.
Yes.
So we have to do some form of celebration online.
Yes.
But I want to show the public the experiences of what we have received in that format.
Yes. Well, it just goes into what I was saying, is that everywhere I go, I've wanted to connect with the community of the African descendants. And New Orleans is very, very special to me because it's very much a Congo territory. Not that we have to make so many differences between, for instance, Congo, Yoruba, or Ashanti, or something like that, because at the end of the day, when we study our history, we really know we come from one major group of people, what we can identify as what they call the Bantu people, but we really come from Central Africa, like Central East Africa, Northern Congo, where the source of the Nile is. So all the African families really come from the same place. So after that, of course, we traveled, we migrated. We went from, we went north to Egypt, what's called Egypt. Then we migrated out of Egypt. Some people went West Africa. Some people were back in the South, in Central Africa and South. And then, so we are really one family. So, New Orleans being nevertheless very Congo culture, I identify with New Orleans very, very strongly because when I went to New Orleans the first time, I felt like I was in Congo. I was like, there's a vibe here that's very reminiscent of me being Kinshasa in Congo. The food, the music, the gait of people walking. I was like, I'm home. And then when I learned about the history of New Orleans, I learned about the Congo experience of New Orleans. They have a square that's called Congo Square because there's a predominant population of New Orleans during the time of our enslavement was there were a lot of Congo people, and a lot of Congo people were very rebellious and feisty, and led a lot of rebellions and revolts against the system. And so I learned about the history of New Orleans, and then I went back several times, and then eventually I was the guest of honor of the Jazz Festival last year, and then yes, the not only New Orleans, but I went all the different places in Louisiana. I went to pour libation in very sacred grounds where our ancestors were kept captive. I went to different communities. I also installed people in the nobility, the rank of nobility. And so the state of Louisiana gave me a day to celebrate Queen Diambi Day, which is April 25th. So Louisiana, and especially New Orleans, that we now call Congonola, is now my stomping ground as well. And then we have a family there. So it's just a work about reconnecting the dots. And then since everybody cannot travel with everywhere, and I was able for 3.5 years to do a lot of traveling and connecting, each other. So I've traveled. I went to Dominican Republic. I went to Cuba. I went to England, UK, France, different countries in Africa, South Africa. And everywhere I went, I brought with me that experience of, listen, everything I am now is added. It's added with the value of all the relationship I have forged and all the experience I've had meeting different people from different communities. So therefore, people can follow me and can come with me anywhere they go, if it's possible, like you, Terry, and other people from the family. And I call us a family. That's all. I don't say, we are this or that. I say, this is just a family. And that's how I went to New Orleans. and I met different leaders in the community. I went to see schools. We went to a juvenile detention center, talking to the judges and asking questions about different things, and then meeting people to see how we can work together, how we can collaborate in different projects. With the UK, for instance, you have the Manhood Academy. How can the Manhood Academy can be brought to Texas, for instance? So now we can have that connection. UK, Texas, our children from the UK and our children from Texas, or different places in Brazil, in Angola, in DRC Congo, in South Africa. So we can start building these actual connections, these actual links that we really feel like we are a family.
Okay. Yeah. So now you mentioned the Manhood Academy, as we've got one of our main guys that's in the chat, and we asked you to be one of our, I don't even like to use the word ambassador, but someone that can carry us to get to many different places, especially the children that we have in Congo that you have now adopted. I want you to give us a bit of information on that and then go into the dialogue of the Manhood Academy.
Mm-hmm. Yes. We are people that are basically on and we have undergone severe trauma through the experience that we have undergone for the past, I would not just say 400 years. It's really been an experience of about 3,000 years almost of brutal attack on the African continents, of coming from different places, and a lot of trauma has gone on in our history. But from the most recent history, between 800 years now, we have undergone a massive human life exploitation with the Eastern slave trade that was carried by most of the Arabic people, the nations, and then the transatlantic, what they called the slave trade, that I called human trafficking in both cases. So then that followed by colonization, that followed by neo-colonization, which is basically having some so-called independence without really being being sovereign. So all of that has really decayed a lot of our lifestyle and a lot of our structure to organize ourselves so we can be peaceful and prosperous. And the destruction of family, the destruction of community, the destruction of territorial states, like my own state, the Luntu people that belong to the greater Luba Empire. We were invaded, we were put to decay, but we are still there. Thank God that we worked it out. We are still present. So, but when we are present, we have to put a light into the areas of darkness, the areas that bring suffering and pain, and where we're not thriving, and where we are lagging behind. And this corona crisis that we're going to probably speak about later is highlighting once more, it's not new, but once more, that we are the people who always have to deal all over the world, not just in America or in Brazil or in South America or Caribbeans or in Europe, but in Africa as well. The least access to good healthcare system, least access to good housing, least access to safety, least access to good education, the least access to good food, good nutrition. So, and then the most exposed to stressors like crime, injustice, disease of all kinds, because of those initial conditions that are now yielding to a lot of unemployment, early death, like age, like our average lifespan, early child death, so many things that are not okay, and they are not okay for all of us. There's not one group that we can say, oh no, they have it better there. They may have, some of us may have it better, some places in the world, but most of us are still faced with the same exact conditions. And this is where we have a choice. Today, we're talking about the fact that, in some areas in the United States, we start now realizing that the majority of the people who are getting, not only getting the virus, but also are dying from it, are also are African Americans. And I mean, it shouldn't come to us as a surprise, because we have all combined conditions, worse conditions, to be a favorable terrain for the lack of good response to such an attack. And that is everywhere in the world. The same thing in Africa, the same thing in South America, the same thing everywhere. So not only we have a common experience for the past about 3,000 years, we have about the same experience. Then we go through, we keep moving, but wherever we are submitted to the same type of conditions, living conditions. And then during the time of captivity and forced labor camp. And then after that, we are submitted to colonization mindset. And even after that, we are still living the remnants of that we are always finding ourselves in the bottom of the ladder. So, and this is not an American problem. This is not a European problem. It's a global problem. Because even now, as I speak to you, in China, where African people are in China, they are now being victimized for being the people bringing corona. So now they are being thrown out of their apartments. They are being, denied access to public places like stores, hotels. So it's a global situation that we are facing, and we faced. So to come back to the Manhood Academy is that once we reconcile ourselves and realize that we have not only a common experience, because we experience about the past, but we have also a common faith right now, everywhere, regardless of what tribe, what's your tone skin, your hair texture, regardless of how educated you are. In the United States today, when you are a Black man and you are wearing a mask to protect yourself, because that's what the recommendations are, protect others from the corona spread, you have a police officers following you and maybe wondering if you might not, commit a crime. So those are things that we need to talk about as a community. And those are things that are indicators that have to show us that we are definitely connected. There is a common denominator here that is so bold and so wild that we cannot look back or look aside and say, oh, this is just the African Americans that are going through this. Oh no, this is just the Africans of the continent. Oh no, this is just Congo. Oh no, this is just Rwanda, just not any part of Angola, but just this part. It's a global attitude that we need to acquire to realize that we are connected, and we ought to work on connecting, because our strength lies into the fact that we unite. And unite, unity, it's not unicity. So people confuse the two concepts. Unite doesn't mean we have to be the same. We have to believe the same things. We have to speak the same language. We have to look the same. No. Unite means that we understand that our common faith or our individual faith is linked to our common faith. So if we work to better our conditions as a united front, we will benefit wherever we are. And for that, we need to recognize each other as being part of a unit of people that has gone through the same experience and that are faced with the same circumstances of life, and that will probably yield to the same effects. And so therefore, we need to realize, how can we collaborate so that the strength gained into one area or one place in the globe, like high expertise in different domains of technical expertise that you have, for instance, in the United States, with African people can translate into how we can better utilize our resources on the continent of Africa, for instance, because no one else will have our best interest in mind. And so the Manhood Academy, why is it important to work with our children, is that once the people like you or me or other people recognize that, yes, it's time to unite. And I'm not saying that you have to go out there and hug and hold everybody's hands, but it's a mindset. It's a consciousness, awareness that I belong to a group and we are stronger together. And stronger together, and we have now to start looking at how one element can be a solution to one of the problems that we have in any part of that entity, and then work to distribute, resources and knowledge and experience, so that whatever happens in one community that is a gain for that community benefits everywhere else in another community. And we've done it individually. I'm not saying that we have not worked towards that. I'm not saying, oh, we in chaos. I think we have done an admirable work all over the world. When I go and see what African people have done around the world, I am baffled and I'm impressed. And I said, how could we have done all these wonderful things under the condition under which we were living? And to see the ingenuity, to see the entrepreneurship of our mothers, and the arts and the cuisines and the poetry and the savant that came out, the brains and the inventions that, technical inventions and technology, and so many domains in which we have done so many advances for the human family. So, but we have to own it. We have to own it as a group, like everybody else is doing, and we have come from a time of extreme.
I typed a message for everybody. I didn't join the call.
I'm sorry. Somebody was talking. I cannot hear anybody anymore, but I see I'm still live. So what I was saying is that we have to start now putting all these resources in a common basket. So everyone who needs those resources can now come and get them and benefit from them. And then it starts with our children. Then we have to educate our children in that same mind frame all over the globe, so that generation can grow with that consciousness of being part of that one group of people, of amazing people, and can have the same base as far as knowing who they are, their history, their challenges, and realize they are common no matter where they are in the world. And then we have to apply the same solutions everywhere in the world, so that we can have our children to open their mind, so that they can seek out to be connected with their family at all time.
Yeah, but you let it come through. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, so what I was gonna ask is, Konsu, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. In forms of the Manhood Academy, in forms of questions that you would like to ask the Queen, what would you like to ask?
Well, I mean, we have global ambitions at Manhood Academy, and we're just looking a way to forge the connection between the African diasporans, the young and the little ones, the little tiny ones, or the teenagers, and Africa. So we've traveled as far as Holland, Amsterdam with our young people. When we initially started, we traveled to Gambia, and we momentum going. So yeah, just want to really entertain the conversation of the possibility of that in terms of rites of passage for young people. And at the moment, we do what we term urban rites of passage to guide our young people to survive and thrive in the concrete jungle of London. But we know real rites of passage, Queen Diambi, is done indigenously and traditionally. So that's where we're shifting into the future after things normalize to some capacity. That's where we're at in terms of getting a bunch of young people to do a real indigenous rites of passage into manhood in Africa.
Queen?
Yes. So I do really think it's an amazing project, and I also want to stress on one thing that I have to commend you all, everybody that's been working with me. I have amazing people, like Will Thomas in New Orleans, and April in New York, and so many more, like Alpha, who's also in London, and many people that have worked closely with me. And I always say something about the African people that are outside of the continent. You are a force to be reckoned with, because you have already gotten the awareness that Africa is a source for strength, for strengthening. And you have now understood that it is important to fortify that foundation and that connection with Africa. Why am I saying that you are a force to be reckoned with? Because sometimes in Africa itself, or herself, I like to call her, people don't value these ancient traditions, because they too have been going through a process that is formatting their brain so that they reject everything African. My own experience is testimony to that. When the European came to Africa, at first they came very respectfully and admirative of a lot of the things that we had, because we had amazing, achievements, and we were way even advanced than a lot of the European states at the time of the, 15th century. And once they, it became clear that, the destruction of the destruction of Africa was going to yield profit for the, the Western world, and, the conquest of what they call the New World, then everything, got really disorganized in Africa. But then more of the disorganization came about again once the colonization happened. So the colonization, I'm going to just give you the example of Congo, because I know Congo better because it's my country. Basically, the Belgian that came to Congo, one aspect of them thinking we bringing the savage civilization. So the premise was that we were savages, and they were going to bring us, semblance of civilization, without never really thinking that we were going to reach the peak of becoming human being, but we could come close. So, but in order for us to do that, we had to forsake and give up everything that was our culture, African in us. So they even came with a term that's called the evolved. So you were now an evolved when you basically were able to copy or copycat everything European, language, manners, way of dressing, the lifestyle, living, in a 2-bedroom house or, 1-bedroom house with your family, eating with forks and knife on, sitting on a chair on a table, not speaking your native savage tongue anymore. So a lot of Africans, and especially in the colonies by French, French-speaking country like France and Belgium, they really talked about what they call assimilation, meaning we had to assimilate to them. So for a couple of generations, the goal to become evolved was to forsake everything African. And how this came about is that everything African was just portrayed as being evil, savage, stupid, idiot. So forget about your ancestors that have never done anything more than swing from one branch of the tree to the next. What is it in it? Forget about your statues, that your fetish, or your statues that you used to go and pay homage to your ancestor because you were worshiping a statue. Of course, they had no understanding whatsoever that it wasn't about the statue. It was about the energy field that was creating. Once the intention was placed that we would make of this place a place of, prayer and worship. So they basically canceled out every single value about anything cultural. So we could preserve the folkloric aspect of what we were doing from our tradition, like, dance. So that when they would come, the king would come from Belgium, he would see the savages with their feathers and, dancing and all that and drumming. And that was cool because it was entertaining. But he was like, look from where they came from and look at them now, wearing three-piece suit with a tie and, speaking French and behaving like a little, copycat of a perfect little European. So when we are still in this mode in Africa today, a lot of Africans have divorced from that quest to say, we're going to go back, we're going to do Sankofa, we're going to go back to our ancestor, we're going to go back to see what was good about what we had and bring it forward so it can carry us through the difficult time and we can gain strength and momentum from reasserting the strength of our identity proper as Africans. So in Africa, there's a lot of work to be done. And the reason why I say the diaspora has a primordial role is that many of you are starting to awaken, not only to awaken to say, oh, today we know that Africa is a source for strength, but this is also something that has carried you through the traumatic experience. That when you go to Brazil and you go to New Orleans or you go to a lot of the strength that was retained and the foundation that was basically the foundation on which they were capable of keeping the sanity was because they retained a lot of that heritage. So sometimes you will find African heritage vibrant in places like Bahia or in places like Cuba or Haiti or New Orleans or New York or Miami. You will find the UK. I was in the UK and I saw a community vibrant and really eager to affirm that identity and find the elements that are constructive so that they can rebuild themselves and rebuild their community. And Menur Academy is one of these it's based on this very same premise of building the community, rebuilding the community, using our children and saying the community is responsible for our children. It's not just the parents or the parent, it's the community. So even if you are in a single family house, you have a child with a mother, that child is the community's responsibility. And this is where I saw you guys step in and say, we're going to do a program where men in the community will come together and we will propose a program to have these young boys rely on the strength of the men in their community who have done something good for themselves, who are doing something good for the community. And this is a fundamental African principle. And so when you do that, and when you look at Africa and say, we want to go back to Africa, we can reignite that fire. Mm-hmm. We come in here because we want to take what is ours. We want to do Sankofa. You leading the way to even the African on the continent to say, oh, really? So there is value into these old stuff that we thought were the stuff of the savages and the stuff of the ignorance. You coming back with your, experience of having overcome, because that is what it is. We have to call it for what it is. Overcome the biggest, historical trauma that you can ever impose on the people for that length. And you are here. And now that you are here, and now that you have the liberty to choose, you choose home for you to rebuild yourself. And this here is capital for the unification and the rebuilding of the integrity of our identity. So this is another reason why I'm so eager to go and meet with the people of the African diaspora community, because it's about what you can bring back to Africa. You can bring us back the path to going to do Sankofa. Yes, we do it here and there. I'm not saying that all Africans have lost completely touch with themselves, because it's impossible. You know, we can try, but it's impossible. That's our nature. So our nature will catch up with us. But the difference is, when your nature catch up with you, do you reject it or do you embrace it? And then by you coming back to Africa, by you making these efforts, and when I say coming back to Africa, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to touch ground, although this is something I want to have every single person of African descent to have that experience of touching ground, because the energy in Africa is absolutely amazing. And we will make it, I will make it my life mission to help as many people as I can to come home to Africa. And if they cannot come home, I will bring home to them, like I've done it in Brazil. But this is fundamental. And this is what one of the role that you have to play in the diaspora.
Mr. Riggs. Mr. Riggs.
There's a few questions that people were asking. The first one was, Queen, are people what? Hold on 1 minute. Can you read it, Konsu? Can you read?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Are people able to repatriate to the Congo from the diaspora?
Did you hear that, Queen?
Yeah, yes, I heard that. So unfortunately, not like Ghana has done, and maybe some other places, Congo has not yet come with a clear protocol to help our people from African descent all over the world to find it easy to come to the Congo. And of course, I understand, you know, one of the reasons is that the people, the leadership doesn't necessarily make the connection between the fate of Congo and having people from the diaspora coming and injecting a lot of, you know, new blood, injecting new ideas, new skills, and new vision for, you know, how Africa can go forward and how Congo can go forward. So we have that phenomenon happening mainly in Ghana, because a lot of the people in Ghana, of course, with the English already. So some people from the United States who have the means, and the UK often go to Ghana. It's usually easy, you know, technically. And so Ghana has had a longer experience of welcoming people. And it's not an easy task, because the local people are not necessarily prepared. Because like I said to you, if you remember, we were not taught about the history of the you know, human trafficking. We know some of places know better because they have made of it some, you know, tourist you know, experience, and people come back to see, you know, what the castles and things. But there's no castles all over the place, and some of the castles or have been destroyed, or the forts have been destroyed, and some places there were no forts. Like in Congo, there is a place that's called Mwanda, and I went there the year before last. And I went to do in 2017. I went and did a pilgrimage to to see where our ancestors from the Congo were taken and the path that they walked on before they got on the ships. But there is nothing much that you can see there. So it's just like a big hole in the jungle where they used to throw people in until the boats got there. And then, but it's really intensely charged in energy, and it was really an emotional experience. But Congo has not yet understood so far the importance. However, when I say Congo, I talk about the secular authorities, but the traditional authorities have understood that very clearly, because that has been my work for the past 4 years. I've been pounding them. I've been meeting with the different kings in the Congo. I've been, you know, visiting different areas in the Congo. I've done big meetings. I've done festivals to bring them to the awareness that it is time to open the path so our children can come back in the Congo. Because many people don't know, when they talk about the human trafficking, they often think it's been just West Africa, and they talk about the Gold Coast, basically. No, when we talk about West Africa, it's from the Gold Coast all the way to Angola, you know, and Congo, Central Africa, was really a place where about 40% of the captive were taken. So everybody probably in the diaspora have some kind of Congo relatives, because, and they were the first one to be taken. So the first, human trafficking was happening in Congo, in the basin of Congo. So many people came from Cameroon, from Congo, from Angola. All these parts were one big entity was called Congo Diantotila. And Congo Diantotila was that big entity of Central Africa, and many, many people were taken from there at first. Before then, the human trafficking moved a bit further north to the west coast of Africa and the Gold Coast. So we have work to do to make it easy for people to come back. But this is something that I've been working on. I want to create a very clear protocol for people who want to come to Congo and settle in Congo. And I have the kings, a lot of the kings, chiefs are on board. And it's just a matter of, being patient and seeing how we can talk with the local authorities and see that, something happened, local secular authorities, to see how we can implement different procedures to make it feasible. But at first it will come as, maybe just pilgrimage at first, come and see for yourself. And then Congo has the French is also sometimes a deterrent. And this is why I would like everybody to learn Swahili, including me, because I don't speak it, but I think we should have an African international language that we all learn, so that we can communicate with each other no matter where we are and no matter where we are from.
Okay. Majestic, is there any forms of questions you would like to ask my sister?
Greetings.
Greetings.
Oh, wonderful! You can hear me. I switched my computer. We give thanks and praise to the Most High. I'm honored to be in the presence of my people and you, Queen. Yes, I do. I do have a question. Now, you've answered it in some things that you've shared, but I was taking notes, and it might not be a clear question, but if you can address some of the things from the notes that I've been taking. And the notes that I was taking, it comes from, it's okay if I could see you, that's okay. I'm looking at a screen. That's good. That's so modest of you. But it's great to see you. So in the forms of why I was taking the notes, I was thinking from a position of leadership and being of a servant to our people. And so with some of the sister circles that I conduct out here in Toronto, Canada, also with just being a part of different organizations where I've been in a leadership position to serve our people. And as I'm listening to you, my spirit is being guided to liberation, and liberation on mind, body, soul, and financially for our people. And because I traveled to places in the US, I've never been to the UK, never stepped foot on Africa. Most High willing, I will at some point. But when I think of the people all over the world, and how we are connected by bloodline, right, to Mother Africa, I'm thinking on a spiritual level. So how do we? My father, born in Jamaica, my mate, married to a Grenadian, so I traveled to the Caribbean. And so I'm observing the cultures and serving the people, the sisters in the circle, listening to where everyone is from. I'm thinking, how do we, Bob Marley says, save yourself from mental slavery, okay? No one can free ourselves but ourselves. And we got to start with the mind. So if the people are disconnected in heart, because I find with our Caribbean culture community, their cultures have been edited, for better terms. So the cultures that they know while they're living in Canada or in the Caribbean has been edited, where the African cultures and traditions and rituals were stripped out and they were given a new type of way. So now that it's become, their hearts are disconnected from Africa, their minds are disconnected from Africa, and I do see that our people are waking up to certain levels and struggling and striving to stay woke. But how can we, and I'm asking you for this guidance because even me in leadership, I want to be able to find ways to, and here where the question comes, meet people who understand the importance of faith. They also understand the God concept, but they're still disconnected from the ancient traditional ways in Africa. They see it as like, this is weird. This is not what, this is going against what I'm being taught. So how do we reteach them values? How do we help them to value again what they should be connected to, because it's not strange to them? Does that make sense? A little bit?
Yes, I think I understand. I mean, correct me if I didn't misunderstood, but your question is basically talking about the fact that because we have had all these different experiences, and I mentioned earlier that we kept a lot of the foundations, and those foundations in the diaspora were, the ground for strength. However, we also had different influences, like we had in Africa. So we have really the same experience going on, that whatever you were doing in Africa was not good enough. And then now you had to be influenced by different cultures, and especially like spiritual system. We had like Christianity or Islam or some other form of religion. And then sometimes when we embrace our traditions, because we don't have really religion in Africa, because a religion has a particular, political purpose. But we did have practices of, worship, or those were also practiced to bring the community together. And yes, there are rituals; those are authentic, whatever. But I want to address that. What has to be authentic is the intention.
Okay.
Whatever process that we do, culture is not something that is static. Anything that we call a tradition today was novel once. So depending on the environment that we are in, depending on the possibilities that we are faced with, we can always reinvent ourselves. Now, what I said is that the intention is the original, value, or the original value. When you do a particular ritual, like today we did libation, and there is no, religion about libation. There is none of that. Matter of fact, a lot of religion use libation. But what was the intention placed onto doing that? And did I do it like we do it in Africa? No. I use a glass and bottle of water, plastic bottle of water, and that's because this is what I have right now. So I don't like the fact that sometimes people from Africa, because I've seen that happening too, they come to America and they say, oh, hold on, you've been doing this for 300 years, but it's not how it's done. This is the way we do it in Africa, and this is the right way. I don't want anybody from the diaspora to feel like whatever they held on to and whatever they were able to do and whatever they were able to come up with, so they can keep that integrity of their spirit, to be frowned upon because you didn't pronounce the right word the way you should have pronounced it if it was in Yoruba. This is make-believe African language. Or no, the ritual is this and that. Yes, indeed, there can be a collaboration
if we have a desire to bring, our forces together. But so much as you can integrate some things coming from Africa, I think Africa also can integrate something that you have come from, the diaspora, because nevertheless, both are valuable, and valid. So I believe that the intention is to work on keeping our spiritual integrity.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you can always change things, because there are protocols that have to be respected, of course. Like today, I wasn't going to be about to start this conversation without pouring libation.
That's right.
Yes, that's the intention. Why am I pouring libation? Because in our and traditions, we have poured libation to give thanks. Thanks to our ancestors, and the most high ancestors, the first ancestor is the divine principle of life itself. That's it. Now, how will I do it? That can be different. If I was outside, I would have poured maybe outside on the grass. If I was by a river, I would have poured in a river. If I was, in a home, like today, I poured in a clean glass. So there are places where we can work on. We have to have some kind of flexibility, understanding that because of the different experiences that we have, we did the best we could, and that has to be validated. So I don't like people from the diaspora to look at Africans and that we are the super expert in this, and then you guys, you kind of like did some kind of whatever, and it worked, but we're gonna correct this. I do not like this attitude. I think that whatever our ancestors did in the New World or in the Americas, the Caribbean, and in Europe, they did with the best of their ability. And some of them, a lot of them actually could even lose their life over preserving some of the fundamental aspect of their traditions. So all of this crossed through time by the will of our ancestors, who were faced with adversity like you cannot even qualify. And yet again, they held on, and they held on to whatever they could. And even if you was to put the picture of a saint, of, Saint Joseph in front of a principle of an African, energy force that they knew about, well, they did what they had to do to survive. And they brought it through. Because if I know about my tradition, I learned it in America before I even learned it in Africa. And what I've learned here in the main thing are really what are the important things, is the intention when we do something. So yes, we have to work on a collaboration, but I doubt that most Africans that I've known that are in Africa, when I go to Congo today, they don't value these things as much as maybe you do. So that's why I keep saying you have a lot to teach us on the continent. You have a lot to teach us about appreciating the fact that we are still so close to how our ancestors did it and how we used to practice some of the different things that we used to do, and seeing the value in some of our traditions, because we have lost, touch with a lot of our traditions, and we have embraced foreign traditions that are obviously not suiting us well, because we see the results today. Does that answer your question?
No, yes, actually, it was well. Like I said, you answered some of it when you were responding to our brother about the Manhood Academy, and I love that. So intention and honoring, and history is evidently, or history, it is there. It has happened within a time space. Mm-hmm. So we must give honor to that.
Yes.
And I just want to say, with the Manhood Academy, I feel like just my observation of it and all the empowering things that they're doing, I'm watching online on social media, and I'm seeing certain things, and I'm like, wow, this is impactful. I love what you said earlier about the community. We've lost, I think that even one thing we can connect with, whether you're a Caribbean, African Caribbean, Canadian, African Canadian, African UK, and so on and so forth, we can connect with. Our children need fine examples. Yes. And we need to learn how to recreate the culture. Mm-hmm. Like, what does that mean? It's a new culture of be the example, and our children will do what they see more than what we tell them. So I want to salute the Manhood Academy and the International Sister Circle that I'm a part of now, because the goal for me, and it's just, I want to be a better servant. So if you see what I'm doing and how I'm honoring, as you said, striving to honor the principles and spiritual, you said, one second, spiritual integrity. Like that's, thank you so much for your divine work, because each one we build together. So you did answer my question. Thank you.
Thank you, my love. And I would love to know more about what you do in Canada. You know, I eventually come and visit you, and because I'm godmother of the International Women Sister Circle, so I would love to come and see what you're doing there as well. But it's really, you know, to insist, it's really about community. And I have to always address this when I talk about reconciliation. I often speak about our history, because a lot of things when we talk about the human trafficking period that happened, we often speak when we are in this area in the New World or Americas and Caribbeans and Europe, we often speak about the moment, well, we got captive and then the boats and then we came here and this was our experience. But oftentimes, because in Africa we have been basically forbidden of even exploring and talking about that period of our history, because it's not widely spread. There are many Africans, I guarantee you, that don't even know that African Americans originally come from Africa. I've seen it. I've confronted many. They don't know, because that history was completely deleted from our history books. But what you don't know on this side is that when this was happening, what was happening on the continent of Africa, when they were having raids to take people away, to capture people, to kidnap people? What do you think was happening? After this was happening, it was not like, oh, the next day, back to normal life. No. Life was completely, the structure of life itself was completely chaotic. Many people had to constantly move from one area to another to avoid being, kidnapped and raided on. The society completely, the structures of society completely decayed. So the traditions that our forefathers had when everything was okay and peaceful in Africa, and the society had reached a level of maturation and things were set in stone, were no longer there once we had to undergo this traumatic experience. So even the Africans on the ground, they lost touch with a lot of things. So a lot of the traditions had to also be reinvented, because people moved around the continent. People were going in hiding. Communities were breaking down, because when you come and take half of the population away, what do you expect? They're not going to just sit there like, oh, let's wait until they come again and take the other half. People were, they were an explosion of different structures that were ancient societal structures in Africa that completely, disappeared. So even Africa, as this was going on the terrain, on the ground of Africa, there was a lot of turmoil. Nothing stayed static there. Well, Africans also on the ground, as their fathers were taken away, or their mothers were taken away, or their children were kidnapped, or they doctors were, ripped from the community. All that, they were also undergoing extreme turmoil. So nothing stayed static, and nothing even that we have today is necessarily what we were having when Africa, during the imperial glory years of Africa. So Africa also had to reinvent herself, and in different tribes and reorganize with new stuff, integrate different components coming from different people, different groups of people. So we have to remember, nothing is static. So when we want to indeed find some foundation, some ground where it's stable. However, the quality of humans, what's called intelligence, is the ability to adapt. So, for instance, you will see, even if you go today in Africa, let's say I came with the candle. Okay, I said, oh, look, light, candle, blah, blah, blah. But there were times where we didn't have candles. So am I not to use the candle anymore because maybe my forefather did it with a stick, a wooden stick, and put the wood stick, put the fire there? You know, no, we have to move also. Culture is nothing static. Culture is also something that moves. So long as the intention is there, so long as we respect certain, protocol, because there is knowledge into the way we do things. If our ancestors did it this way, they have studied extensively. So it's not even in the fact that we believe, it's that there's scientific proof that this way works, because it has been experimented this way, it has been successful every single time. So we have valid data to say this is how it works. So when we beat the drum, and we beat the drum to harvest on a particular energy, when we do these types of beats, when there is this combination of patterns of beats, of tonalities, it's a code. And therefore, you can open up some vortex of energy and harvest the healing energy of some different principle of nature. Then of course you're not going to change that and say, oh no, I'm going to change, because you have the proof it works. But now if you're going to beat them, how you're going to sit, if it's on a circle or on a square, or you understand, that will be left to the way the people, the wise people of the community can come about to do it the best way possible with the means that they have. So that's my strong belief. And that's why I say everywhere I've gone, I've seen Africa in effect. Not a diluted Africa, a real potent Africa, every single way. That's why I say Africa, Brazil, Africa, USA, Africa, Canada, Africa, UK. You understand? A potent and original Africa. Not anything diluted because there is also in Africa itself, we have had to face different cultures, and we have integrated so much stuff that do not belong originally to the African people. So I don't want anybody from the diaspora to ever feel a slight complex of some kind of like inferiority because, oh no, I'm not authentic. No. You are, baby. You are 100% authentic, because Africa is not a place. Africa is a disposition of your heart. Okay? That's where it is. And once you stick to that, once you understand what it means to be African, it means to be good with self. So it can be of value to the community. And community is not just people. Community is everything. It's life itself. So you can present yourself, so you can be an asset to promote life. You don't destroy nature. You don't cause harm and pain to people. You are frugal with the way you consume anything. Those are principles that have to come in place. Even now, those are very important principles that we have to start looking back into and look at our ancient people, how they organized the society so that they can build civilization that was so amazing, like Kama civilization or Kemetic civilization, where they built, isn't it like a durable building, like how they call it, the objective that they have now, oh, we have to build things that are sustainable. Look at the pyramids. Isn't that the prime of sustainability? So didn't these people integrated the fact that they could build immense civilization with absolutely great knowledge and yet again respect the environment and live in symbiosis with the environment and build from the environment? So those ancient ancestors of ours, they had thousands and thousands of years where they lived in the quest of always living in balance with self, but within the community. There's no detachment, as opposed to this society now where it's all about me, and if I make it without thinking that I cannot make it if everybody else doesn't. Because today we are all into this corona, but
Now, what does that tell us? Oh, now you are all confined because of Corona. So one individual gets it. It's for all of us.
Okay.
We have to go back to that mind frame of realizing that there is no such thing as peace and as prosperity if I am fine and you are not. It doesn't make any sense on the global scale, on the planet. So that's the Ubuntu principle. Let's please say what you have to say.
Question.
Go ahead.
Brother Consul wanted to ask a question, and then Majestic will ask another question because we're coming to a close, and Queen's going to close us out. So please continue.
Yes, Queen. I'm just curious. I mean, there's a lot of information going around at the moment, but there's one thing that kind of pinged up for me, and I just wanted to see how it is on the ground in reality in the Congo, and that's to do with Jean-Jacques Mugembe suggesting sanctions for the people of the Congo to be tested on the vaccines for coronavirus. I mean, is that factual information? And what's your views on this?
I'm going to address that, but I think I want to listen to what the princess has to say also, because I want to see if it's the same line of question. You wanted to say something, Queen.
The question, pardon me, sorry, my thing was muted. Sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, I just wanted to know what you are going to ask so I can see if it's the same line of question or if it's something different, because I'm going to address what you said.
Okay. I'd have to go back there, brother. That's a real question here. Modern now, what we're dealing with, but it was just an image of when you're on the plane. They say that you must put the mask on yourself before you put it on anyone else, and so what came to mind is the respect for freedom. Although yes, it should be, we must think for our community. But I think that a lot of times our people are stuck in serving other people when they don't serve them back. So as a mother, I know that when I serve my son, it's love, right? And I don't expect anything back, but of course conditions like you must, do the right thing and whatnot. But I think with the mindset of I'm going to take my dollars and give to another community before I give it to my community, we run out of resources. So I would ask, how can we as in leadership positions teach the people about, with still respecting their freedom, putting their mask on themselves first? How do we support them teach them about it's got to be a collective, without them feeling disrespected about their freedom? Like, this is my right to take care of self first, then others, right? So yeah, it was a response to what you were saying.
Yes, so that's why I wanted to address that, and then I will address my brother. I will talk about this situation with the coronavirus. I think to close it would be the right thing to talk about. Ubuntu principle is I am because you are. Yes, indeed. I see what you're doing. You're telling me, okay, we're talking about saving our own communities, and we have, like, for instance, Black business and entrepreneurs, and they bringing stuff on the market that we could buy. But instead, some of us, we're gonna still go to the big, supermarkets or big brands and stuff like that. Is this what I'm getting a little bit as an example, a sense of what you're saying? And
that's one aspect.
But what we have to say is, look at how well it has served us.
Okay.
The proof is in the pudding, right? Look at how well it has served us. And we don't realize that by working together, closely together, we can really understand our power. We don't know the power we have because we are scattered.
Scattered. Mhm.
And we feel like, we are powerless because effectively, if they take us in a divided state, we are powerless because it's every single person is working individually. So you don't have that much weight individually. But when you put yourself in a community, now that community is more powerful than one individual. And the reason why it's so important that we work together as African and we work on that unity, which is a process. It's not something that's just going to come from the sky because we look with melanated people or we have, kinky hair or whatever. Oh, here we are African. No, it's a process. We have to work through it. Unity is work. Unity is a decision of every single day, even of every single moment. So we have to come to an understanding that we are better served by unity than by division and our individualism. For instance, today, you in Canada, you don't know what's your strength as an African community in Canada. You don't know. But if every African in Canada say, okay, today we're not going to buy a particular product. I will not give a name, but let's say a big brand, famous brand of soft drink. You see, for 1 week, no African Canadian will buy a product of that brand. Just for 1 week. After that, we can do whatever we want. After that week, I guarantee you that you will know your power as a community.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why us uniting is not about, it's about it's not about threat. It's just about us realize the threat is that we realize the power we have. That's the threat. Because once we realize the power we have as a community, so imagine if it's not just Canada. Imagine that the world and the African people who claim to be African descendants, say, you know what? For the good of our community, for 1 week, we will not buy a product coming from this brand. Just for 1 week. I guarantee you that after that week, there will be that week before and the week after. I guarantee you that we will have a better consciousness of how community serves us compared to how our individual interests serve us. I'm not saying that you have to do it all the time, but some things have to be done for the good of the community. And you can use the mask reference. When they say to you in the plane, put the mask on and then you can help somebody else. Okay, I agree with that. You have to help yourself. And this is what I want to do. I want to help African people so African people can help everybody else that's African out there that doesn't know it. Because the behavior is what I said it was a disposition. So if we are closer to that disposition of bringing balance and prosperity and peace in the world, we can help other people that do not have this disposition to maybe gain this disposition so that all of us together as a human family can be better off. Because there is other ways. We have to show other ways. And our forefathers have led the way for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So we have it in our DNA that we are capable of plugging into that wealth of wisdom to carry a time of prosperity for humanity. That's my core belief. Everybody doesn't have to agree with me, but that's what I believe. And I think that we have an essential role in redirecting the paradigm about how humanity will continue to develop and live on this planet. So this is what I would say. With the mask, put the mask on and help somebody else after. But you know what? Eventually, that mask, wherever you're getting the oxygen tank from, eventually that oxygen will run out. So if you didn't work on making sure that once you take the mask off, you find still people around you that are alive and can help you once that oxygen is off, because it will run out. You will run out of oxygen in the tank. So what is the condition that you are creating while you have your mask? Did you help someone else put their mask on? Because that's the people that you will find to help you eventually if something goes wrong with your own oxygen tank, because eventually it will run off. So the solution is never going to be individualistic. Even when you put your mask on, the solution, because that means that there's a problem, the solution ultimately has to be a collective solution, a solution of collective good. So that's my answer to that.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So then, as far as my brother is concerned, and you answer about the coronavirus trial in the DRC, it's true. It's not a fake news. It's true. there are a couple of African countries that were selected to do a vaccine trial of the coronavirus. And of course, I completely refused that. I said, no, we don't have to be, we're not the laboratory of the world. We're not the guinea pigs of the world. We don't have to accept it. And majority of the African people refuse it, although the secular governments have made some arrangement and agreements with some organization to test the vaccine. And we don't know at this time to what extent this has already started to go on. But not only that, but I have to address this issue. It's not the first time Africa and African people are the guinea pigs for experimentation. It's been going on over and over and over and over for hundreds of years. There's been experimented done in Jamaica on the captive population for certain vaccines. There's been Tuskegee experiment where they injected our brothers in the United States with syphilis and they waited for them to die. There's been a bunch of experimentation in Africa from the longest time. So this is not a new rodeo. It's just that this time is a little bit mediatic because we have now the social media and now the news is known. But African people have been the guinea pigs for all these pharmaceutical companies for the longest time. So this is something that we have to remember. And yes, take a stance now to say no more. But then if you say no more, then we have to monitor. We have to have these people that monitor these media to know what's going on, that monitors the decisions that are being made in those organisms, like the World Health Organization. We have to have, advocates. And this is a way you unite. This is a way, if this is a field of expertise and you are capable or you have a calling for it, be the advocate, be monitoring all these organizations that are taking advantage of the fact that African people all over the world are usually the poorest one. Because this is what's going on. Another thing I have to address. We talk about coronavirus, and I'm not trying to put a dimmer on what's going on, because it's very grave, and I really want to make sure that we are very sensitive and sensible to the people who have lost loved ones, and then we send them our best condolences and our support and love. I also want to thank everybody that's on the front line working to make sure that not only they take care of the people who are ill, but also take care of our daily life, like cleaning our streets and delivering food and doing all the basic services. So I really want to put that in there. I want to tell people, yes, indeed, follow the recommendations. Make sure that you are safe. Stay indoors if you have to. Protect yourself. Put a mask. Protect others. All that, I agree with that. Nevertheless.
Okay, then, Queen.
How many Africans die every single day of malaria? Thousands and thousands and thousands die every single day of malaria, every single day of preventable diseases. Every single day we have thousands. We die by the million every single day. Just today, over 6,000 people are dying of lack of water in Africa. So yes, Corona, okay, yes. But we cannot lose the fact that every day there are ways that people are dying that could be preventable, that needs people to be advocate and talk about it. And we know nobody's doing a fuss about it. That children under 5 years old are dying by the thousands per day, per month, per year, years in and years out. You don't hear about any lockdown, you don't hear about any mobilization on the planet because, it's happening in Africa. So nobody will come on the white horse to save us. Africans themselves, all over the world, have to be the best advocate for ourselves. We have to engage ourselves more into seeing what we can do. And we have to also trust each other. And also we have to put aside a little bit of a budget to be helpful in our community, because a lot of people are doing great things out there, but they're not getting any money from it. So nobody wants to pay for the services that we have to do to help our community grow closer together and stronger. So African people, yes, it's good to say, you know, we want rights, but we have to fight for these rights, and we have to put our money where our mouth is. Because too many people are talking about, oh, unity, but they don't want to pay for it. Many people are offering beautiful services, community services, so that we can get, we have to build this, but it doesn't come free. It comes with a lot of efforts and sacrifice. And for too long, I see our people holding on to their pocket, but loving to hear that brother talk truth about our conditions and our situations. Yes, hearing is one thing, but the most important is what you do after. So I've spoken here for almost 2 hours. So what are we going to do after you heard some of the things Queen Diambi said? Are you going to look for more information about Africa, history? Are you going to involve yourself with the community to help the young children like the Manhood Academy? Are you going to enroll into the Women's Circle, International Sister Circle? Are you going to help a person like Queen Diambi when she comes to speak and you are able to give £5 just to go listen to her speak? Because all this takes resources, so we can get together, we can continue consolidating our identity and our integrity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Queen. And if there was any last words you would like to say to the public before we log out, what would you like to say to them?
But I think I basically concluded it right there. And I just want to send my love and my blessing to everyone out there. You know, stay safe and remember what we talked about today, and get more interest to things that you may not be exposed to in the media, but just go online and look for the information. Look at the world meter and see how many people could need help. And I have an orphanage in the DRC. We have 73 children. And when I told them about the corona, I was like, oh my God, the corona. They're like, Queen, we're going to die of hunger before we die of corona. So when you hear something like that, where is your heart? What are you doing? And it doesn't have to be me. I have a foundation, the ELIKIA Hope Foundation, that you can find online, THEELIKIAHOPEFOUNDATION.org. But you know, what is it that you're doing even in your own community, so you can be the hand, you know, that lift your brother or your sister. So bless you. I love you all. And my heart goes to all of you out there. And I want to have an opportunity to get to hug you again, like I love hugging. Bye.
So everyone, please like, share, and subscribe. Tomorrow we have a guy called Paul Abena. He does a timeline and history, and that will be at 9 o'clock tomorrow. So Queen saying her farewells as we are out. This is Black Eyes TV once again, loving you loads. Spend black, believe in black, move black. Just bring your blackness to the forefront. We will get through this, and we'll be even more powerful at the other end. See you there soon. Peace and blessings. This is Terry Riggs, Mr. Riggs. Your UK tour guide to the rest of the world is out.